We fall down, but we get up. We fall down, but we get up. For a saint is just a sinner who fell down, but we get up. But not Malika. Not Malika. Malika will not be deterred. You know who ain't gonna be deterred? Of all the people that will not be deterred from continuing to hold us down, it is going to be that strong black woman. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. It's that strong. Not Malika. Malika, listen, at the end of the world, this is what I know for sure. One thing is for sure and two things is for certain. When this is all said and done, when the rapture comes down and takes us all, you know who's going to still be here? Roaches and black women. They will survive. They will always survive. They will be at the forefront of all of our TV shows. They will be in our streets. They will be on social media. They will be here. When you lose your job, you know what they're going to have? A black woman that's canceling you and walking you out the door. When they call you to HR, you know who they're going to have had a conversation with you? A black woman. At the end of the world, when it's all said and done, she will be waiting there for you with your pink slip and walking you out the door, walking you on your way to hell. She's going to be the one that sent you there, and she's going to be the one to give you the first class ticket, punching your way to hell. I promise you. At the end of the world, it's going to be Jesus battling the devil, and then a roach sitting on the kneecap of a black woman, and they're going to be eating popcorn, talking about, I told you. I told you. I promise you. But neither here nor there. We have to deep dive and we got to get the details, right? So, Disney decided that they wanted to clean house. Now, I have some theories about this. I have some assumptions based off of looking at things from a C student's perspective. But we're going to get there. Okay. So let me give, the New York Post columnist his breakdown of who all got the big chop. And then we're going to go into the fact that Kendrick Perkins and Malika is still there. Don't worry about it. We're going to get there. Make sure y'all hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Make sure you tap into the Patreon if you have not already. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Let's get to it.
The scrapping of the morning show that consists of Keyshawn Johnson, Jay Williams, and Max Kellerman is one of a series of moves that is forthcoming for ESPN. Let's talk first off about why they're doing this. ESPN is de-emphasizing national radio. That's been apparent for a while now. In the previous layoffs of behind-the-scenes people, they took a big chunk of their staff that were in radio. So the move now to get rid of the Kellerman, Johnson, Williams combination in the morning is not surprising.
Check this out. 20 on-air personalities, including Jeff Van Gundy, Jalen Rose, Max Kellerman, and Keyshawn Johnson. 20 on-air personalities. Max Kellerman, largely considered one of the voices of boxing and a great sports analyst that can break things down to a science as to the punching power of your favorite boxer. Jalen Rose has the best lineup in the industry, great head of hair, former NBA player, absolutely was the one that Kobe Bryant scored 81 points on, and has a great take. As a matter of fact, his most recent interview specifically was with Ja Morant. Keyshawn Johnson, football talent extraordinaire, just re-upped with ESPN and signed a new contract, out the door. Jeff Van Gundy, right? Jeff Van Gundy, former coach, ESPN analyst, can break things down, has been calling games for ESPN for over a decade. Steve Young, Oh my God, Steve Young. Let me give you the whole list. Jeff Van Gundy, Jalen Rose, Keyshawn Johnson, Max Kellerman, Chris Chelios. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Chris Chelios is also a former Detroit Red Wing, if I'm talking about the right person, right? Because I don't know hockey that much, but I know it was a Chelios chili over here in Dearborn, Michigan, and then they was trying to get one popping over here in Hockey Town Cafe. Chris Chelios, Matt Hasselbeck, Steve Young, the great Steve Young that can throw a football 2 football fields down the thing. Let's see. Rob Ninkovich, Neil Everett, Ashley Brewer, Susie Kolber. Let's see. Rob Ninkovich, June Lee, not June. June. If it had to be between you and Malika, who you think was going to be gone out of there? June Lee. Let me see what June Lee looked like. I don't even know who June Lee is. Yep, that's June. Shout out to June Lee. Let me show y'all what June Lee. Did y'all think that June Lee would survive? Let me show y'all what June looked like. Now, in this world, did you think that this man was going to survive over a black woman? Nope. You can forget it, buddy. Not you, June. You can forget it. You had no chance whatsoever. LaFonso Ellis, Todd McShay, Jordan Cornette, Jason Fitz, and David Polak. Wow. Let's continue.
What's coming next week is most likely more talent layoffs and buyouts. When you talk about talent, you're talking about the.
What he's saying is it's not over. Kendrick Perkins could possibly still be. He probably who knows how much he makes, but Kendrick Perkins is definitely there.
On-air people, and you look at someone like Max Kellerman, and he's probably not in a good spot because, first off, the radio show is now being canceled. In the afternoon, ESPN made the huge signing of bringing Pat McAfee on an $85 million deal, around $85 million. And so do you need the Kellerman show, which this just ends from 2 to 3? You probably don't, because the Kellerman money, he's making around $5 million a year, goes to McAfee and his crew. And so I think Kellerman's job is in jeopardy. And then, when you look at what is going on in terms of where people are focusing in the audio space, it's more towards podcasts. And that's where ESPN is looking to. And that's where, McAfee is excellent. His podcast is very popular. And so
let me give you my assessment of this. Aside from Malika Andrews. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to mispronounce your name. When I seen Pat McAfee, and we actually had this conversation a few weeks ago, and I started breaking this down, right? When I seen Pat McAfee sign over to ESPN, I knew the writing was going to be on the wall. I didn't know it was going to be 20 people plus more that was coming to the front of the congregation. And then when I seen Shannon Sharp, and I seen his departure and his exit over there at Undisputed, I knew something was brewing, right? And here's the key. And I broke this down over the weekend. Similarly, I think I was on Fight Club, but I broke this down over the weekend. And here's the thing. Large television and movie houses are going the same way as record labels. As a matter of fact, they should have been doing this a long time ago because the user taste is changing. ESPN fumbled the bag in that they started talking about politics and started being woke. And then they start turning off the people that actually tuned in to see what the hot sports stakes are. Because sports is a way for us to actually bond and come together, not be more divided, right? We can argue over whether or not this is the right person that could be drafted. And then people can walk away and they don't have no kind of hard feelings. I mean, I can call you a motherfucker, you wrong. And we can argue and we can go at it. And then we can still love each other and not feel a certain type of way about each other. You can't do that with anything else. You can't do it with religion. You can't do it with relationships. You can't do it about money. You can't do it about anything else except for sports. Sports was supposed to be the thing that bring us together, not divide us. And so the first hint of it is when we start to see ESPN go woke. We start to see the Black Lives Matters show up all over the basketball court. We seen y'all started kneeling and y'all didn't even watch football on Sundays. The people that had the most to say was the ones that never even actually tuned in or spent $1 on a courtside seat on watching it on TV or never bought a jersey in their entire life, right? And so we started to see everything go woke. Now, that combined with the idea of things and the user taste were changing as far as being able to have on-demand content, not being regulated in order to watch it on your TV or on a major network. And then you combine that with the whole idea of Disney not being able to effectively run ESPN and not even knowing where to put it in their whole conglomerate of things, but they had a huge lead on everybody else, which then justified how it was that they were operating because they didn't have any competition. Now you have different people that give you not only competition in other spaces like the Fox Sports, but you also have online competition. And you got me over here, and you got Gilbert Arenas, and then you got Marcellus Wiley over there, and you got Kwame Brown, and all of these people are just taken away from the pie because people want to hear what they got to say instead of what it is that you're trying to force feed us on top of what we're doing politically. And then the cherry on top is we got Molly Queerum and fucking Malika Andrews sitting here spitting in our face, talking shit about draft picks and trying to throw their background into the conversation on draft night, having conversations, fake accusing, well, not even fake accusing, but giving this fake little thing about what was going on with Jalen Rose when he tried to hug her and she tried to act like he was yo. It is the perfect cocktail mix. The perfect cocktail mix of people putting themselves in a position to fumble the bag. Now, the problem with this is there's no needle movers now. There's no needle movers now, right? Because Max Kellerman, as good as he is, he was just a person that was good at what he does, but he's not a person that draws the thing that you need in order to build an audience separately. If Max Kellerman, in my opinion, went and started a channel by itself today, Max Kellerman wouldn't be that relevant. It kind of reminds me of when you seeing Joe Budden with Rory and Maul, and now Rory and Maul is largely not even something that you check for, but you didn't realize that they were just supportive castmates and not necessarily needle movers. They were people that was just sitting in a chair and maybe they gave an interesting take, or you tuned in order to see somebody push back against Joe Budden himself, but they're not the movers and the shakers and the needle movers in the space, right? And that's going to separate the real from the fake. That's what separates the Keyshawn Johnsons from the Stephen A. Smiths, or the Stephen A. Smiths from the Keyshawn Johnsons. That's what separates the Club Shay Shay, the Shannon Sharps, from, somebody else that's just riding the waves and getting a decent salary, but not necessarily generating a lot of revenue. And so now you start to throw into the cocktail mix somebody like a Pat McAfee, right? A Pat McAfee is a person that comes to the congregation that already has his audience, that already has a strong following, similar to exactly what it is that they're looking to do inside of the music industry. The music industry does not develop talent anymore. They're not looking to air and argue. They're not trying to figure out how it is that you can spit a hot 16. They're looking to find people that already got a movement, that already got a social media following, that people are already buying their stuff, and then they just give them the bag and they say, we want to partner with you, and we can use this machine to make your platform much bigger. See, some people are saying Max can actually debate and analyze. It's not about debating and analyzing. It's about whether or not you can be relevant in a crowded sea of people where social media and different personalities are taking over. When I watch sports, right, I'm not just checking for what's happening on Fox Sports and ESPN. I'm not just checking to see what's happening with Pat McAfee, right? It's some smaller content creators that got 50,000 subs. It's some people that got 25,000 subs. I'm checking for the Gills Arena. I'm also looking to see what's happening over on my dog, the Dreamers Pro Show. He just crossed over 100,000 and he killing that shit. And so it's not just about whether they can analyze. It's whether or not you're going to go out of your way to go and look them up separately, or whether or not they can make themselves a part of the algorithm to give you relevant information that makes it more entertaining beyond what it is that they can analyze and break down. It's not just about being technical. Right? We call it the Mayweather effect. Can you sell? Are you likable? Do you have the entertainment, the wow factor that actually would generate buzz and revenue and makes you go social, makes you go viral instead of just giving the information? Okay? So when I say Max Kellerman, I love Max Kellerman, but I'm a sports fanatic. I'm not just talking about Max Kellerman, the analyst. I'm talking about Max Kellerman, the entertainer. Don't you see Stephen A. Smith breaking out on his own and trying to start his own channel? If you don't, listen, the biggest clue was Stephen A. Smith seeing what happened over there with Shannon Sharpe, starting his own network. Stephen A. Smith is starting to talk about subjects that ain't even got nothing to do with sports now. Stephen A. Smith has the Stephen A. Smith show that is just on YouTube. And if you don't think that you didn't see the writing on the wall, a lot of these people need a job. What I'm telling you is that what's happening here with big media, what's happening here in the record industry is the same thing that's going to happen when it comes to artificial intelligence, and it's going to start trickling down in what it is that we got going on in our lives and at our regular jobs every single day. You think, listen, go and look at the latest manufacturing video in the latest car that they build. And go look at the new BMW 7 Series. That's what I look at, honestly. Go look at the new BMW 7 Series as far as how it is that they put in that car together. I'm reading that super chat shortly. And then you're going to start to see how things are going to trickle down with you specifically. And then artificial intelligence is going to increase that. When you go and you look at that factory video, when you go and look at the most recent builds in Tesla's factories and how they putting the things together, they hardly have any people on the floor anymore. They hardly have any people on the floor anymore. The people that are going to survive, whether you're talking about over here at ESPN, or you talking about in content creation, or you talking about in your regular everyday jobs, are the people that are going to be high performers. People that move the needle, that have the best sales record, that actually have the best relationships, can network effectively, that can change the dynamic, that is going to be a rising star. That is going to be the difference between the people that are thriving and the people that are just trying to figure out how to survive. You are going to have to be a needle mover if you're going to grow and thrive in this economy, and we're already seeing it take place. Mark my words, I'm always right. And I always come back and I start telling y'all the truth. It's the Pat McAfees that's going to get the contracts. They're going to get the $85 million. They're going to get rid of all 20 of them people, and then they're going to move it all over, and they're going to say, Pat McAfee, you already got it. We can bank on you because you got an audience. The people rock with you. You're entertaining. You've been doing it for a while. We love what you got going on. Here's the bag. Here's $85 million. It's capitalism. They took Max Kellerman's $5 million, and then they took Jalen Rose's money, and they already gave it to Pat McAfee. Once Pat McAfee signed on the dotted line, all of the motherfuckers was out. That's just the truth. Problem is that we still got to deal with Malika Andrews. We still got a Malika Andrews out there. But my point is that what you see happening over here at ESPN is just a small piece or a small part of a bigger picture that ESPN is reorganizing. Unfortunately for them, I don't think that they're going to do well because they're a small cog in a big machine of Disney that, in my opinion, don't really understand how to capitalize and leverage their visibility. But I think that it's going to be gnashing of the teeth. I think it's going to be very, very difficult. Let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to start seeing a lot of these people that got laid off. They're going to start to try to do their own thing. They're going to start to try to do their own YouTube channel. Because it ain't no money for most of these dudes and everywhere else. Right? They can't go and do a radio show. It ain't too many networks that got the budget to be able to absorb these guys. And so they're going to try to do their own thing. And then a lot of them are going to fail because they're not really built to be able to do this stuff on their own. Skip got his own YouTube channel now. You right, Just Jab. Skip got his own YouTube channel. A lot of these people ain't built for it. A lot of these people going to fail. They don't know how to build an audience. They don't know how to entertain. They need that big machine behind them, and it's going to separate the real from the fake. Mark my words. Let me hear a little bit more of what he got to say. Actually, I want to go into Marcellus Wiley. I want to get Marcellus Wiley's take on this whole thing.
All right. I wish I was a liar right now. Boy, I'm so good with these transitions today. But I got to tell the truth, and I got to read this report. Breaks my heart, but you know me. I live through levity. If I ain't dead, I ain't down. I'm going to be all right, and these guys will be too. But ESPN has laid off some names. big names in the latest round of firing. So let's just go through some of those names. Confirmed names before we get into this story and kind of highlight a few. Max Kellerman, my dog. Keyshawn Johnson, Jalen Rose. Caught me off guard with that one. Jeff Van Gundy really caught me off with that one. Susie Colbert and LaFonso Ellis. Y'all know him.
Guess what? People are still going to watch NBA games, regardless of whether Jeff Van Gundy is the one calling them. As much as we love, as sports fans, Jeff Van Gundy calling those games, you can go and get a dude off the street to call that game, and it ain't going to make no difference. It's not going to make any difference because we did not watch it for Jeff Van Gundy. I'm telling you. As much as I love Jeff Van Gundy, we didn't watch it for Jeff Van Gundy.
I'm the college basketball analyst that loves to smile. That is a good dude, for real. Not renewed, which is different than the layoffs and firings. Not renewed means your contract's coming up or it's up, and guess what? Hands up, too. We ain't doing nothing with you, right? So that's Rob Ninkovich. Know him. Neil Everett, we discussed, and hockey legend Chris Chelios. All right.
So Chris Chelios is the guy that I thought about.
And then unconfirmed, still floating out there. You know, they got calls into their publicists or agents, I assume. Steve Young and Jay Williams. Okay, we're going to put a little focus on this one right now and start at the top and start where it all started today with Max Kellerman and Keyshawn Johnson. Now, the news isn't all bad for Keyshawn Johnson, as only a year ago, he signed a 5-year deal in the neighborhood of $18 million.
So Keyshawn Johnson still get his money.
And he will be able to collect.
Now, if they let Keyshawn Johnson go, even with signing a 5-year, $18 million deal, and they just letting him take the money and walk out the door and they still getting rid of him, that should tell you something.
All of it. All right. So while ESPN still will pay Keyshawn his money, it can write off the rest of his contract, which helps his books, impresses Wall Street. And then if Johnson wants to work somewhere else, let's say FS1, get on Undisputed, be in that carousel, whatever they got going, he's going to have to go talk to the legal department to kind of work that out. But he can do it. Now, y'all know I know Keyshawn. That's my dog. We raced each other. I smoked his ass. That's what I do. He going to get mad when he hears this. But we've talked through this process. I knew this was coming for him. And I knew it because I know Keyshawn and I know how to decode Keyshawn. Keyshawn, I used to look up to Keyshawn, like, you know, he's older than me. I'm talking about high school, y'all. Went to Dorsey High School, could have went to Miami, ended up going to a JC, going to SC, and setting the world on fire. I ain't never seen a receiver every single week go for 200 yards or something, right? It was just insane how he balled. #1 overall pick, big party at House of Blues. Back in the days, all Death Row Records was there. Like, Keyshawn has always been a big timer. That said, I knew that this situation was coming for him because I knew what was happening with Max Kellerman, another person I've talked to through this process. So decoding it all because it wasn't confirmed even for them, but they knew in terms of the writing being on the
So they already seen it coming anyway.
wall. Now, what happened with Max? This is interesting. So we know Max was making a little more than Keyshawn, like $5 million per year. I actually know the real numbers, so they close. And his arc at ESPN, man, I remember the day we were doing Max and Marcellus, and he was like this Max during the break, he always talking on the phone. I don't like talking on the phone, I like texting. So he then I can hear, you ear hustle. It's so funny you're in a room with somebody and they on the phone, you might as well be on the phone with them because you're hearing half the conversation and assuming the other half, right? So I'm like, what are you talking about? Who are you talking to? And then he hung up the phone, he's like, dog. That's our code for like something big going down. And that was First Take calling him to go out there. He's like, what you think? What should I do? I was like, what? Peace. Holla at your boy, baby. We still got phones. I'll text you. You call me and we still be boys. But go get that. And he went there. But boy, when he went there, they went there on him as well. Wasn't the warmest reception as we saw on that show. So we saw it go the wrong direction once him and Stephen A connected pretty fast too. And then on First Take, he got removed. Got his own show, this just in. Then all of a sudden he got the radio show. But now, being in the business, knowing that all these moving parts, that means that even if you're making your money, they're not really supporting you. That was one of the reasons I left ESPN to go to FS1, because of the movement. I was on Sports Nation, but y'all remember Sports Nation? Used to have Carissa Thompson, used to have Michelle Beadle, used to have Kerry Champion, used to have LZ Granderson, used to have Max Kellerman. You get my point? All that means, all that movement, they ain't fully supporting it. And Max and all that movement, even though he was getting paid, I was getting paid, they're not fully supporting you. Max kind of felt that. So then when Pat McAfee got signed, it was a wrap. Like, it's just a matter of time.
Told you. Once Pat McAfee got signed, that was it.
We got to announce to you that you got to be let go. We need that real estate. Okay, so then it gets to Jalen Rose. Now, Jalen, who is 50, who looks amazing for 50. He older than me? Yeah, I knew that from basketball, but not by looking at him every time. That crispy hairline he got right there. This was interesting. He was on the NBA broadcast for a decade. Really impressive because of all of the changes that the network made to that show.
You know, the interesting thing about Jalen Rose, I'm going to leave it there because I want to read some of these super chats. The interesting thing about Jalen Rose, I hope he saved his money. I hope he was smart. I hope he stacked his bread. I hope he saved his money because I think one of the reasons why some people got let go and some people didn't is because of the certain contracts that they have. It's the contracts. I think it's the contracts. I don't think that certain people make as much as others, but then I think that they need to have a budget in order to give over to Pat McAfee and some of the other talent that they're probably bringing over there. Maybe Shannon Sharp, who knows? But I think it's the budget also.